Hey everyone, today I want to talk about my experience, what I see when I'm coaching people, my personal journey going through OCD and anxiety recovery with ADHD, why I think ADHD diagnoses have been extremely overblown, why I think we have a problem in the world today with identifying with these problems, and then the fear of, oh my gosh, I'll be worse, etc., over and over again. So we just have to be aware about the labeling problems and breaking down the fear that even if having ADHD made it more difficult to recover from OCD, it's usually never at the level that most OCD sufferers believe. Yes, it will probably be harder. You might be a little bit more prone to going 0 to 100, but if I can make progress on it, then most people can, since, as I quote, when I went to Robert Wood Johnson when I believe I was 9 or 11, it was in between those years, the neurologist told my mother that I had, and I quote, one of the worst ADHD cases he had ever seen. Sitting still is not my forte. I do a lot of my one-to-ones, potentially walking down my hallway if I'm in a really good groove. I've gotten a lot better at sitting still. I can do 10 one-to-ones, not moving. I will get jittery like most humans. But, you know, I have to accept certain things about my personality traits, how I am genetically, how that's molded into my neurology, and how that affects me. Before I go any further, please subscribe. Hit that like button down below. Let me know what you think about this. There are particular topics that I usually talk about, and I usually say that when I talk about this topic, I understand that a lot of people identify with ADHD, so they can get slightly defensive, which is understandable. This is coming from what I see from my wide knowledge of coaching OCD sufferers all over the world, different cultures, different languages, and then my particular journey itself. And then remember, Phil at OCDrecovery.com to reach out for help. So what do I notice about myself? Now, I have a higher propensity towards anger and aggressiveness and 0 to 100 if that was to happen. I know that about myself. I also know that I had to work on consistency and persistence, particularly a little bit more than, say, other OCD and anxiety sufferers, I would imagine, but you would never hear me identify with that or complain about that. I have luckily, for myself, never used my ADHD as a crutch in the sense of I can't work here, I can't do that. I just accepted, hey, look, if I'm doing some sort of data analytics or I have a long, monotonous, boring day, I might be more fidgety than other people. I might be more on the preference to want to be on the go all the time. Me and my wife speak about this. My particular views on life are very much go, 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 7 days a week. I work almost 7 days a week, and when I'm not working, I'm either exercising or reading or going to the cigar bar or hiking mountains or doing something like watching economics or political stuff or anything that I can do to push myself in a direction. But when it comes down to just sitting in the cigar lounge, having a cigar for an hour and reading, I can do that as well, and writing and making articles for the groups. So I have trained myself by building my frustration tolerance. Now, I'm just one example of ADHD. I work with people who have very, very, very severe ADHD. Now, before I go any further on that, people ask me about medications. Always speak to your provider. I took Concerta for years and years. I particularly don't take it anymore. I made a choice to never go back on ADHD medications. That's a personal choice. I can't make that choice for you. I see some people take ADHD medications and it really helps them, and that's amazing. But also, even if you do have moderate to severe ADHD, the principles from REBT, unconditional self-life, other acceptance, can still benefit you to some degree. It's like if you have stage 4 pancreatic cancer with metastasis to your liver, it doesn't mean unconditional life acceptance does not matter. You still will die in the end, understandably so, like my father did, but you could ease the remaining time on this life by accepting your scenario to some degree. Not saying in a perfection way, but the principles are for life. It's called how to stubbornly refuse to make yourself miserable about anything. Yes, anything. Not how to stubbornly refuse to make yourself miserable about anything unless you have ADHD and OCD. So it doesn't quite work that way. My personal opinion is ADHD is extremely overdiagnosed. Just because a kid can't sit still and wants to talk to his friends does not mean he has ADHD. And the idea that having ADHD means that you cannot concentrate, you cannot get things done. Yeah, I can't really do that. I have ADHD. I can't concentrate on my reading. Yeah, I have ADHD. I can't really hold that job. That is a very small fraction of the people that have what I like to call the most severe forms of ADHD. Most people in the body, and these are just broad statements I'm using here, there's no classification or data to back up what I'm saying, but most people that believe they have ADHD have a lot more low frustration tolerance than they even want to admit, and they can sit still and read. It's just going to be a little bit harder for them. And again, this is something that it's not an easy thing to talk about, because then what people do is they get all up in arms and they say, whoa, wait a second, are you telling me that I'm lazy? No, I'm not telling you that you're lazy. I'm telling you that you have lazy behavioral traits in certain ways. So did I. That's okay. It's important to tell people that. The idea that everyone's a winner nowadays is a big, big problem. And this translates and has inspired into all certain different things, whether that's ADHD, whether it's PTSD, whether it's OCD, whether it's losing a leg, something I can't relate to, or going to war and taking someone's life and coming home. But like, I'm reading a book right now, it's downstairs, on firsthand combat experiences when it comes to taking someone's life. World War I, World War II, Vietnam, Korea, etc., from an American basis. And all of the stories I read, first accounts, I see the irrational beliefs right there. Now, I have never done that. I've never been in war. I've never been in a combat situation. So it's easy for me to say. But OCD is more than likely the most severe form of an anxiety-based disorder, which is why the DSM, I believe, 6 is going to take this doesn't matter, by the way. I'm just telling you what they think, I believe they're going to do, and make it into its own disorder, which is going to have its own problems, but in psychological viewing of the fear of fear. But the belief work still helps regardless. It just might be harder for you. If you have severe PTSD, unconditional self-love, other acceptance is the way forward. Guilt and shame from doing what you've done in war is brought down by, I accept myself as a human being. It's very unfortunate, and slowly chipping away at that, not isolating yourself, not sitting in your room all day drinking whiskey, etc. Very much the same thing. Just one example of things I've seen with severe PTSD. A lot of people struggle with alcoholism, with OCD as well, etc. And ADHD is no different in that sense. This is the hardest truth about ADHD you've ever seen. You usually don't need any of these big programs that people do. You usually don't need to do any sort of like dopamine regulation type stuff. Most people, again, there are people I work with who benefit from some of the stuff, but it can easily become compulsive. ADHD is the master mimicker. I don't spend a single second thinking about my ADHD. People speak about my ADHD way more than I speak about my ADHD, which I think is fucking hilarious. I love when people do this in life. Like, other people are so much more concerned about other people what other people are doing and what they're going through than I am myself. Oh my gosh, this and that, and oh, he's ADHD, and oh my gosh, that's how he can work so many hours, and oh my gosh, that's how he can do so much content. That's not how I view my life. I just operate on the level that I'm operating on every day, no matter what. And I'm a human, and of course I get tired, and of course I want to lay down and take naps sometimes, and I do, where I have a harder time concentrating. One thing I noticed about myself, which I think is the case for most people, it's not some ADHD thing that people talk about. If I don't want to care about what you're saying, I will not care. I know that about myself. I have to actively try more to listen to things that when I go and do continuing education on certain topics, when I'm in school, like I think standardized schooling is very, very bad in many ways. There's the really famous TED Talk by Sir Ken Robinson, who was knighted by the Queen. He had polio, 2004 TED Talk. He's done a couple. I think he passed away. That was, in my opinion, more than likely the best TED Talk ever about why schooling only focuses on one side of learning and one side of the brain. And he talks about dance studios and different stuff like that, and the arts, etc., and creative environments and stuff like that. I don't operate on a level that I don't meet many people like me. There's nothing wrong with, and again, what I'm saying to you right now is something I would never say to anyone. It doesn't even cross my mind. I'm just thinking about it right now on the fly speaking to you. I don't meet many people like me. I don't meet many people who can sleep less than 5 hours a night for months and months on end and operate at the level that I do. I'm not better than anyone. There's a lot of negatives with that, right? I probably feel a little bit more jittery at times than most people. Caffeine doesn't do to me what it does to other people because of the stimulation properties. When you look at something like Concerta or Adderall or I almost said Ativan or Vyvanse, coffee for a lot of people with ADHD can mellow them out, because if you look at what ADHD is, it's these massive swings in like vroom, vroom, and dopamine, etc. Again, none of this matters. It just goes to show you how I operate. And then when I crash, I can crash really hard. But because I've built my frustration tolerance, I can push through those crashes a little bit more than other people. And I can just go when most people want to quit. And that, again, has a lot of negatives. So you hear people that say stuff along the lines of, my OCD is the reason why I'm successful. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors on that. That's not necessarily true. My ADHD is the reason why I'm successful. I've read this in books such as Spark. Great book by John Ratley, medical doctor, psychiatrist, who wrote about different people with ADHD. Sure, this is true. There's a lot of people with ADHD in extremely high positions, accounting, in the financial sphere, and equities, in surgery and law. But if I dove inside their brains and looked at their life, there's also a lot of cons that no one sees. You know, if you're a multimillionaire lawyer working on Fifth Ave in the best law firm and you have extreme ADHD and you can work 90 hours where everyone else is basically fucking dying, you know, from the real, more than likely definition of burnout, which is not when you work 20 hours a week and you feel stressed. That's not what burnout is for most people. There is probably true physiological burnout, but we've desensitized that meaning to where it doesn't mean anything. That's a whole other conversation. And you'll never be able to know what's real burnout and what's not. So it is important to say that. But there's also a lot of cons in that. Cons for me is if Erica was not in my life, okay, I already know how I would live. I would wake up every single day at the same time I do, anywhere between 4:30 and 5 in the morning. I'd work from the moment I got home from the gym, which I usually do anyway, until the moment I went to sleep. More than likely, it would not be good. I would be very hyper-focused on finances. I would be very hyper-focused on hiking in potentially a dangerous way. Erica is one of the best things that's ever happened to me. And I think I'm one of the best things that ever happened to Erica in certain ways because I help pull her out of her shell. She helps reel me back in. And there's this good give and take with that. And I have to sacrifice with Erica just like she has to sacrifice with me in certain ways. And that's what makes, in my opinion, a good marriage. Also a conversation for another day. But it's not as simple as just, I have ADHD, so I can't concentrate. Okay, that's the moral of this video. That is not good. Okay, are there cases out there? Sure. But more than likely, the rational belief would be, because I have ADHD, it will be a little bit more difficult for me to concentrate. But that doesn't mean I cannot try. Because of ADHD, it might be a little bit harder for me to balance certain things. But that does not mean I cannot try. Excuse me. And that is how you break down that entire persona of identification with ADHD. So what most people do, and again, this is really, really sad, most people do this in life. Okay? Here it goes. ADHD, OCD. This is my attachment style. And I'm not saying any of these aren't real, but it's the problem of how I'm neurodivergent. I have to add this one in for comedy. And I'm gluten-free. Nice to meet you. This is what I am. That's not what you are. These are just things about your life. And a lot of them are actually fueled in many ways by belief systems and fears. So, but I can't go into full detail on everything. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think down below. Phil@OCDrecovery.com. Hope to hear from you soon. There's a lot of hope. A lot of people are afraid that looks so stupid. This is hilarious. Gonna pull this. Someone's gonna pull this up in the memes. I could just sense it already. Always a pleasure. And as always, enjoy the rest of your day.